In this video, I'll show you how to edit step by step using just an iPhone, and if you're a beginner, it's a lot easier than you might think. Go ahead and get your phones ready because we're jumping right into it. The app that we're going to use is called CapCut. It's a free video editor. It has options to upgrade, but it's free to get started. So we're going to go ahead, open that app up, and we're going to get started with our video edit by clicking New Project. We're going to scroll down to our main video clip that we're going to be using as our A-roll. Now, in this video, I'm explaining the difference between A-roll and B-roll, so maybe you'll learn a thing or two as we get through this edit. We're going to select our main clip, the one with the main dialogue that we're going to be using, hit add. With our main video imported, we can start editing. Now today, we're not going to do a super crazy edit. We're basically just going to get our feet wet, and I just want to introduce you to this app so that way you could get started on your next project. Really quickly, I just want to show you around the app, some of the things that you might see as I go through this edit. So when the clip is unselected, you'll see a menu option at the bottom, and here we have some sounds that we could get into to spice up our video, add some background music, maybe some sound effects, things like that. You'll have to be aware of the sound copyright, and that's something that you could look into on your own time. But basically, if you use songs that are inside of this app, you could probably use them for TikTok, but maybe you wouldn't be able to use them to their full extent on different social media platform like YouTube. For example, if you were to use the video that you edit in this app and use a song from this app, when you upload it to YouTube, you wouldn't be able to monetize that video because of copyright issues. To play it safe, we're not going to be using any additional music, so we won't have to worry about that for this video. When we have our video selected by clicking on it, we dive into other settings. So something that you'll see me use a lot is this split, and we could also scale in and zoom in on this timeline to make really fine micro adjustments. Let's say I wanted to take this awkward portion out. I could select that and delete it. At any time, I could press the undo button if I don't like a certain change. So I'm going to go ahead and put it back to how it was. Select that clip. Here we could also adjust the speed. I click on normal. You don't have to worry too much about that. But if you wanted to play at 2x speed, you could speed that video up or even slow it down. We're going to keep this video at 1x, so let's go ahead and dial that in. Perfect. As far as animations, you can make really cool transitions in and out. If you see this little pro icon, that means that you're going to have to upgrade and pay for the professional version of the app. The ones without the pro sticker, those are all fair game. And by clicking on these animations, you can add this little, transition effect. We're not going to dive into that too much for this video, but it's there if you wanted to play with that. Careful with the effects. The more that you use them, the higher chance that you have of your video looking a little cheesy and unprofessional. So I like to keep it simple. You can never go wrong with clean, simple cuts. It keeps things engaging, and as long as you have a good story, as long as what you're saying is of interest, then you shouldn't have to worry too much about those transitions and animations. We could click on video effects here. Again, a lot of pro features. This main clip that you're watching right now is referred to as, and here you could kind of see like what I mean by it makes your videos look a little bit cheesy. So I stay away from those. We don't have to worry about those for now. So that's the effects. We're not going to use them for our videos. We're going to keep it simple. It's not necessary. Then we have that delete button. Again, if you wanted to take a certain portion of that video out, you would use the split along with the delete button, and then you'd be able to take that awkward mumble or awkward space of silence out of that clip. Enhance voice, it would allow you to do what it says. It enhances your voice, but as long as you have a good microphone and quality audio, probably wouldn't be an issue. It's also going to be a pro version, so not even going to pay attention to that too much. One cool option is this retouch. I just wanted to show you what this feature could do, because like, how can I get smoother looking skin if that's something that you wanted to? We have this retouch option. smooth, and you could really smooth out your skin. It's a pretty cool feature. I don't use it much at all, but it's an option for you. I guess if you're just getting into content creation and you need a little boost of confidence, do what you got to do to get that first video out. You know what I mean? It's an extra step that you'd have to take. Editing does take time. So here we have the volume, and we could turn the volume of the clips up and down. Transform, if we wanted to rotate that image, we could go ahead and do that. Maybe even flip it for whatever reason. Before you dive into taking out all of those awkward pauses and mumbling over your words, verbal mistakes, I'd recommend going in to adjust your footage first. And you really don't need to go too heavy on this. Maybe you just want to brighten up your image a little bit. Maybe you just want to add a punch of contrast. Whatever the case may be, you could dive in and really play with these settings if you want to. For me personally, I like the way that this video is colored and whatnot. So I'm going to go ahead and just reset all of those settings that I just played with. But if you wanted to make your colors pop a little bit more, if you wanted to add a little bit of brightness because you filmed in a dark location, you could go into the adjustment option and dial that in there. As far as filters kind of remind me of cologne. There's a lot of different paid and unpaid filters that you could use. Let's take this high saturation one, for example. I think it looks pretty cool. Back to the cologne reference, you wouldn't want to empty the whole bottle on yourself. So I like to do a really subtle, just a little subtle spritz of filter onto your footage, you know, just to make the colors pop a little bit more. I try not to take it past 30, definitely not past 50, but you can control the intensity, which is pretty cool. Again, I just like to keep it simple, really subtle. That adjust tab though, it is something that I go into and will make changes to frequently. And if you want a shortcut to those filters, there's also a filter tab. You could dial it in again, making those changes as needed. Here's our basic adjustments tabs. We can either scoot that video over to the left or right. When you are filming something, you want it to be as close to the edit as you can. So making sure that those lines are nice and straight. Again, every once in a while, you might have to come in and dial in that rotation to make those lines a little bit straighter. If we wanted to zoom in, we could do that as well. And that's something that I might do in between clips to make the video more engaging. This overlay button is how we're going to be able to add in additional footage to go on top of this talking head footage. Something that you're going to absolutely love about this app is its transcript-based editing. Now you select your clip, scroll over to transcript-based editing. That's kind of a mouthful. It's going to go ahead and process your audio and take every word that you said and translate it into text. So now you could really dive in and see where the awkward pauses are, see where you repeat yourself, and just delete that entirely. Right here, paragraph 3, I see that I repeat myself a couple times, where I say this is where a majority of the dialogue, and then down here this is where it looks like I repeated myself a couple times. So what I'm gonna do is double tap here, make a selection, and then once I have that clip where I know I'm gonna repeat myself, those first couple takes were no good, I'm just gonna go ahead and hit delete. Then I'm gonna have this confirmation pop up asking if I want to confirm deleting this from the timeline. I'm gonna go ahead and hit delete. So now I just have that final take in there. Majority of the dialogue is gonna be pulled from. Boom, beautiful. Really cool feature. It's what I'm gonna use to go in and transcribe all of these things. For me, the transcript-based editing is the way to go about this. So I'm gonna go ahead, use this transcript-based editing to go through this whole video, and then I'll catch up with you after. All right, so I've kind of gone through, took out all those awkward parts, and now I want to show you basically how to reframe something. Let's say you want to punch in on a certain sentence to emphasize a specific point. Well, let me show you what I have so far. A-roll. It can also be referred to as the primary or main footage. So that sentence right there, I want to kind of zoom in, and there's a couple options of how to go about this. Simplest thing that we could do is put 2 fingers on the screen, drag them apart, and now we have a more zoomed in look. I'm going to go ahead and drag that down so that way things look a little bit better. And now when we go ahead and play that back, we should have a little nice punch in effect. This main clip that you're watching right now is referred to as A-roll. It can also be referred to as the primary or main footage. This is where beautiful. So that's something that you could do to punch in and hide those repeats, those verbal mistakes, hide those awkward pauses in between each clip. It does take a little bit more work, but it does add some type of visual stimulation, if you know what I mean. So going in, scaling your footage, making those kind of adjustments is something that you could go through and do as a part of your editing process. What I want to show you next is how to add additional footage, the footage that's known as B-roll on top of your A-roll. So for example, let's say you're really into coffee and that's what your whole channel is about. You want to make a YouTube video talking to the camera, maybe talking about different brewing techniques, different coffee beans. At the beginning of that sentence, I referred to the viewer as you. Right there is where I want that footage to come in. So what I'm going to do is go back to my main timeline, unselect that clip, and really quick, let me just show you what happens if that clip is selected and then you hit that overlay button. Go over to the overlay right here. It kind of merges those 2 layers together, and when I play that back, they're both going to be talking over each other. Let's say you're really into coffee, maybe talking about, whoa, that's way too overstimulating for me. So I'm going to go ahead, hit undo, go back to that point where I want that footage to come in. For example, let's say you're really, boom, right there, add overlay. I'm gonna go ahead and go down to my B-roll, my additional footage, select the clip that I want, hit add. I want it to be that first sip right there. So I'm gonna hit split, go ahead and hit delete, and now drag that to where I want it to be. For example, let's say you're really into coffee and that's what your whole channel is about. You wanna make a YouTube, that is beautiful. So you will notice that it's not scaled up. So what we could do is, again, do that 2-finger pinch technique. That is a term I obviously came up, patented, and it's proprietary. We have that clip added, it's scaled up, and now let's go ahead, play that back, and see how much more interesting this video is. For example, let's say you're really into coffee and that's what your whole channel is about. I mean, come on, bro. That looks so good. I could scale in, make those micro adjustments if I wanted to, and I like the way this looks. For example, let's say you're really into coffee and that's what your whole channel is about. You want to make a YouTube. So right there, I'm about to talk about brewing techniques. So let's go ahead, add some footage in of brewing techniques. Add overlay, select the clip I want, hit add, and boom. Maybe talking about different brewing techniques, and we might have to go ahead and adjust this a little bit. Boom, I like that right there. Split. Mental note of where this is. There's also this little time clock in the top left corner here. So I know that at 25 seconds, I want that clip to come in. Go ahead and delete that first part. And now I could drag the rest of that clip to that 25-second mark to make things that much more efficient. So let's go ahead and take a look at that now. So talking to the camera, maybe talking about different brewing techniques, different coffee beans. It would be great to select that clip, scale it up, and guys, we are freaking video editing. How amazing is that? I tried to add or start that B-roll in between those, splits, what's referred to as jump cuts, just to make things a little bit more easy. You don't want the viewer to realize that they're watching an edit. You know what I mean? You want things to flow as seamless as possible. And as you practice this more, you're just going to get that much better at it. So practice makes perfect. I know I'm going to talk about coffee next. Delete that. Add some coffee bean clips because you know how I do it. Scale that up. Talking to the camera, maybe talking about different brewing techniques, different coffee beans. Now we know how to add our B-roll. Add those overlays, the additional footage to spice up your whole video. I'm gonna go ahead and go through the rest of this edit, adding in some of that B-roll, and then I'll catch up with you after. At this point in the video, We figured out how to start a new project, how to upload footage, and how to add our B-roll. Next, we'll move into audio. Let's say you have a couple different clips and one is significantly louder than the other. In order to adjust the volume, we just select our clip, scroll over to that volume button, and then we can adjust that to whatever your liking is. I'm going to keep it at 100 because if you've recorded everything in one session with the same microphone, chances are the volume's going to be fine all the way through. Another thing I wanted to share with you is the difference between horizontal and vertical editing. Nothing too crazy to worry about, but if we wanted to change this video from its horizontal form into more of a vertical format, something that you would see on TikTok or Instagram Reels, well, what we would do is make sure no clips are selected, go to our aspect ratio down below so we can go to that 9:16 ratio, and all we would need to do is zoom in, pinch those fingers together, and adjust it to our liking. I'm going to go ahead, go back, undo that scale, undo, and then go back to the original. So that's a great option if you wanted to go in and take a horizontal video and turn it into a vertical one. With our basic edits done, we go ahead and export it, get it ready for YouTube, get it ready for Instagram, TikTok, whatever social media platform you want to put this video content onto. So what we're going to do is click on that resolution. 1080p at 30 frames per second is totally fine. Stick with the recommended code rate. No need to select that Smart HDR tab. 1080p, 30 frames, recommended, good to go. So now we're going to go ahead and hit export, and the video is going to process and save to your photos. So now the video has been processed, it's ready to share. We could upload it directly to TikTok, Instagram, Facebook. If we go over to CapCut, we'll be able to see our project has automatically saved, and if we wanted to go in and go ahead and make any changes, we would go ahead and just click on it. If we hit these three dots, we could duplicate it. So now we have our main version, and now we have a copy. With this copy, what I would do if I wanted to turn this horizontal piece of content into a vertical one is, again, going back to our aspect ratio tab, hitting that 9:16, and then now I could go in individually adjust each one of those frames and have a new piece of content. Same thing with the export settings. It's going to export, save to your phone, and that's basically it. It's a pretty simple, straightforward app. It's very intuitive, and that's why I recommend it for beginners. Feel free to show some love. It actually helps the channel, and it motivates me to continue making videos like the one that you're watching right now. Thanks again for checking out this tutorial. I'll see you next time.